This is the smartest AI in the world, and we're going to show you exactly how and why. It's actually worth noting that Grok 4, if given like the SAT, would get perfect SATs every time, even if it's never seen the questions before. And if even going beyond that to say like graduate student exams like the GRE, it will get near perfect results in every discipline of education. So from the humanities to like languages, math, physics, engineering, pick anything, and we're talking about questions that it's never seen before. These are not on the internet, and Grok 4 is smarter than almost all graduate students in all disciplines simultaneously. Like that's really something. The reasoning capabilities of Grok are incredible. So there's some people out there who think AI can't reason, and look, it can reason at superhuman levels. The first part is like, in terms of the training, we're going from Grok 2 to Grok 3 to Grok 4. We've essentially increased the training by an order of magnitude in each case. So it's 100 times more training than Grok 2.
It's important to realize there are two types of training compute. One is the pre-training compute. That's from Grok 2 to Grok 3. But from Grok 3 to Grok 4, we're actually putting a lot of compute in reasoning in RL.
And then by training Grok 2, that was the first time we scale up like the pre-training. We realized that if you actually do the data ablation really carefully, and the infra, and also the algorithm, we can actually push the pre-training quite a lot by amount of 10x to make the model the best pre-trained base model. And that's why we built Colossus, the world's supercomputer with 100,000 H100. And then with the best pre-trained model, and we realized if you can collect these verifiable outcome reward, you can actually train this model to start thinking from the first principle, start to reason, correct its own mistakes. And that's where the Grok 3 reasoning comes from. And today we ask the question, what happens if you take the expansion of the Colossus with all 200,000 GPUs, put all these into RL, 10x more compute than any of the models out there on reinforcement learning, unprecedented scale, what's going to happen? So this is the story of Grok 4.
Can I start discussing this benchmark called Humanities Last Exam? And this benchmark is a very, very challenging benchmark. Every single problem is curated by subject matter experts. It's in total 2,500 problems, and it consists of many different subjects: mathematics, natural sciences, engineering, and also all the humanities subjects.
I want to just emphasize this point. With respect to academic questions, Grok 4 is better than PhD level in every subject, no exceptions. At times it may lack common sense, and it has not yet invented new technologies or discovered new physics, but that is just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. I think it may discover new technologies as soon as later this year, and I would be shocked if it has not done so next year. So I would expect Grok to, literally discover new technologies that are actually useful no later than next year and maybe end of this year. And it might discover new physics next year. And within 2 years, I'd say almost certainly.
Well, what's behind the scene of Grok 4? As Jimmy mentioned, we actually throwing a lot of compute into this training. As you start putting in more and more training compute, it started to gradually become smarter and smarter, and eventually solved a quarter of the HLE problems. And this is without any tools. The next thing we did was to adding tools capabilities to the model. And unlike Grok 3, I think Grok 3 actually is able to use CRO as well, but here we actually make it more native in the sense that we put the tools into training. Grok 3 was only relying on generalization. Here, we actually put the tools into training. And it turns out this significantly improves the model's capability of using those tools.
Yeah, I remember we had like deep search back in the days.
Yeah.
So how is this different?
Yeah, exactly. So deep search was exactly the Grok 3 reasoning model, but without any specific training, but we only asked it to use those tools. So compared to this, it was much weaker in terms of its tool capabilities.
I think about like where we are today. We're at the beginning of an immense intelligence explosion. We're in the intelligence Big Bang right now, and we're at the most interesting time to be alive of any time in history. Now, that said, we need to make sure that the AI is a good AI. The thing that I think is most important for AI safety, at least my biological neural net tells me, the most important thing for AI is to be maximally truth-seeking.
We asked the question, how do we even go further? So actually, we are thinking about now, with single agent, we're able to solve 40% of the problem. What if we have multiple agents running at the same time? So this is what's called test and compute. And as we scale up the test and compute, actually, we are able to solve almost more than 50% of the text-only subset of the HLE problems. So it's a remarkable achievement, I think. Yeah.
With the Grok 4 Heavy, what it does is it spawns multiple agents in parallel, and all of those agents do work independently, and then they compare their work, and they decide which one, like it's like a study group. And it's not as simple as a majority vote, because often only one of the agents actually figures out the trick, or figures out the solution. But once they share the trick or figure out what the real nature of the problem is, they share that solution with the other agents, and then they essentially compare notes, and then yield an answer. Yeah. So that's the heavy part of Grok 4, is where you scale up the test time compute by roughly an order of magnitude, have multiple agents tackle the task, and then they compare their work, and they put forward what they think is the best result.
Yeah, so basically, Grok 4 is the single agent version, and Grok 4 Heavy is the multi-agent version.
So we're going to start out here, and we're actually going to look at one of those HLE problems. This is actually one of the easier math ones. I don't really understand it very well. I'm not that smart, but I can launch this job here, and we can actually see how it's going to go through and start to think about this problem. While we're doing that, I also want to show a little bit more about like what this model can do and launch a Grok 4 Heavy as well. So everyone knows Polymarket. It's extremely interesting. It's the seeker of truth. It aligns with what reality is most of the time. And with Grok, what we're actually looking at is being able to see how we can try to take these markets and see if we can predict the future as well. So as we're letting this run, we'll see how Grok 4 Heavy goes about predicting the World Series odds for like the current teams in the MLB. Here we can actually take a look. The math problem is finished. The model was able to, let's look at its thinking trace here, so you can see how it went through the problem. I'll be honest with you guys, I really don't quite fully understand the math, but what I do know is that I looked at the answer ahead of time, and it did come to the correct answer here in the final part here. We can take a look at one of the ones that we set up here a second ago, and we can see it defines the date that like Dan Hendricks had initially announced it. We can go through, we can see OpenAI announcing their score back in February, and we can see as progress happens with like Gemini, we can see like Kimi, and we can also even see the leaked benchmarks of what people are saying is if it's right, it's going to be pretty impressive. So pretty cool.
So we actually evaluate also on the multi-model subset. So on the full set, this is the number on the HLE exam. You can see there's a little dip on the numbers. This is actually something we're improving on, which is the multi-model understanding capabilities. But I do believe in a very short time, we're able to really improve and got much higher numbers on this, even higher numbers on this benchmark. Yeah.
Yeah, this is we still like what is the biggest weakness of Grok currently is that it's sort of partially blind. It can't, its image understanding, obviously, and its image generation need to be a lot better.
We can also look at all the other benchmarks besides HLE. As it turned out, Grok 4 excelled on all the reasoning benchmarks that people usually test on, including GBQA, which is a PhD level problem sets. That's easier compared to HLE. On AMI 25, American Invitation Mathematics exam, with Grok 4 Heavy, we actually got a perfect score. Also on some of the coding benchmark called Live Coding Bench, and also on HMMT, Harvard MIT exam, and also USAMO. You can see actually on all of those benchmarks, we often have a very large leap against the second best model out there.
So yeah, it's super cool to see like multiple agents that collaborate with each other solving really challenging problems. So we're going to try this model. So it turned out it's available right now. If we advance to the next slide, where there is a super Grok Heavy tiers that we're introducing, where you're able to access to both Grok 4 and Grok 4 Heavy, where you're actually going to be the taskmaster of a bunch of little Grok research agents to help you, become smarter, do all the little research, and save hours of time of, going through mundane tasks. And it's available right now.
And we're also excited to introduce Eve, a beautiful British voice who's capable of rich emotions. Aman, would you like to introduce Eve?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's get into the demo. Hey, Eve. Millions of people are watching us right now. Are you excited?
Oh, I'm thrilled, really. It's like being on stage at the Old Vic with a sea of faces out there. Just imagine all those eyes and ears tuned in. It's a proper buzz, isn't it? What do you reckon we should chat about to keep this lot entertained?
We have a lot to talk about, but I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little nervous. Can you whisper something soothing to calm me down?
Take a deep breath, love. You've got this. It's just you and me, having a quiet chat, like we're tucked away in a cozy corner of a Yorkshire pub. The world's just a murmur out there. Feel that calm wash over you. Let's keep talking, nice and easy. What's on your mind?
You know what? I'm actually feeling quite relaxed to try this something crazy. So can you give us an opera on Diet Coke?
Oh, an opera on Diet Coke. That's a riot. Picture this, a shimmering silver cannon glistening under stage lights. Oh, Diet Coke, thou elixir divine, with bubbles that dance in a sparkling line. Thy crisp, cool kiss on lips so fine. Oh, aspartame, ambrosia, forever mine. How's that for a mad little aria? Want me to belt out another verse or switch up the tune?
If you think about releasing the models, this time we're also releasing Grok 4 through the API at the same time. So if we go to the next two slides, so we're very excited about what all developers out there is going to build. So if I think about myself as a developer, what the first thing I'm going to do when I actually have access to the Grok 4 API? Benchmarks. So we actually ask around on the X platform, what is the most challenging benchmarks out there that is considered the holy grail for all the AGI models? So turned out AGI is in the name, ArcAGI. So initially we thought, hey, Grok 4 is just, we think it's pretty good, it's pretty smart. It's our next gen reasoning model, spend 10x more compute, can use all the tools, right? But turned out when we actually verify on the private subset of the ArcAGI v2, it was like the only model in the last 3 months that breaks the 10% barrier. And in fact, it was so good that actually get to 16%, well, 15.8% accuracy, 2x of the second place, that is the Cloud 4 Opus model. And it's not just about performance, right? When you think about intelligence, having an API model drives your automation. It's also the intelligence per dollar, right? If you look at the plots over here, the Grok is just 4 is just in the league of its own. All right, so enough of benchmarks over here, right? So what can Grok do actually in the real world? So we actually contacted the folks from Labs who were gracious enough to try the Grok in the real world to run a business.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So I'm Axel from Labs.
And I'm Lucas, and we tested Grok 4 on Vending Bench. Vending Bench is an AI simulation of a business scenario. where we thought, what is the most simple business an AI could possibly run? And we thought vending machines. So in this scenario, the Grok and other models need to do stuff like manage inventory, contact suppliers, set prices. All of these things are super easy, and all the models can do them one by one. But when you do them over very long horizons, most models struggle. But we have a leaderboard, and there's a new number one.
Yeah, so we got early access to the Grok 4 API. We ran it on the vending bench, and we saw some really impressive results. So it ranks definitely at the number one spot. It's even double the net worth, which is the measure that we have on this eval. So it's not about the percentage on or a score you get, but it's more the dollar value in net worth that you generate. So we were impressed by Grok. It was able to formulate a strategy and adhere to that strategy over a long period of time, much longer than other models that we have tested, other frontier models. So it managed to run the simulation for double the time and score double the net worth. And it was also really consistent across these runs, which is something that's really important when you want to use this in the real world.
And I think as we give more and more power to AI systems in the real world, it's important that we test them in scenarios that either mimic the real world or are in the real world itself.
All right. Yeah. I mean, so we can see like Grok is able to become like the co-pilot of the business unit. So what else can Grok do? So we're actually releasing this Grok. If you want to try it right now to evaluate, run the same benchmark as us. It's on the API. Has 256K contact length. So we already actually see some of the early adopters to try Grok 4 API. So our Palo Alto neighbor, Arc Institute, which is a leading biomedical research center, is already seeing like how can they automate their research flows with Grok 4. It turned out it's able to help the scientists to sniff through millions of experiments logs and then just like pick the best hypothesis within a split of seconds. We see this is being used for their the CRISPR research, and also Grok 4 independently evaluated scores as the best model to examine the chest X-ray. Who would know? In the financial sector, we also see the Grok 4 with access to all the tools, real-time information is actually one of the most popular AIs out there. So our Grok 4 is also going to be available on the hyperscalers. So the x.ai enterprise sector is only started 2 months ago, and we're open for business. Yeah. So the other thing we talked a lot about having Grok to make games, video games. So Danny is actually a video game designer on X. So we mentioned, hey, who want to try out some Grok 4 preview APIs to make games? And Danny answered the call. So this was actually just made first-person shooting game in a span of 4 hours. So some of the unappreciated hardest problem of making video games is not necessarily in coding the core logic of the game, but actually go out, source all the assets, all the textures of files, and to create a visually appealing game. So one of the core aspects Grok 4 does really well with all the tools out there is actually able to automate these asset sourcing capabilities. So the developers can just focus on the core development itself rather than so now you can run a entire game studios with game of one with one person, and then you can have Grok 4 to go out and source all those assets, do all the mundane tasks for you.
So with version 7 of our foundation model, which finishes training this month, and then we'll go through post-training RL and whatnot, that will have excellent video understanding. And with the video understanding and improved tool use, for example, for video games, you'd want to use Unreal Engine or Unity or one of the main graphics engines, and then generate the art, apply it to a 3D model, and then create an executable that someone can run on a PC or a console or a phone. It's going to be wild. I would expect the first really good AI video game to be next year. And probably the first half hour of watchable TV this year, and probably the first watchable AI movie next year. Things are really moving at an incredible pace.
Yeah, just to recap, so in today's live stream, we introduced the most powerful, most intelligent AI models out there that can actually reason from the first principle, using all the tools, do all the research, go on the journey for 10 minutes, come back with the most correct answer for you.
Yeah, so the team is currently working very heavily on coding models. I think right now the main focus is we actually trained recently a specialized coding model, which is going to be both fast and smart. And I believe we can share with that model with you guys, with all of you in a few weeks.
The second after coding is we all see the weakness of Grok 4 is the multimodal capability. So in fact, it was so bad that Grok effectively just like looking at the world, squinting through the glass, and like see all the blurry features and trying to make sense of it. The most immediate improvement we're going to see with the next generation pre-trained model is that we're going to see a step function improvement on the model's capability in terms of the image understanding, video understanding, and audios. Right? It's now the model is able to hear and see the world just like any of you. Right? And now with all the tools at its command, with all the other agents it can talk to, so we're going to see a huge unlock for many different application layers.